So here's something I never thought I'd say. My property got raided by the cops, all because of a damn HOA dispute. Yeah, you heard that right. Cops, vests, guns, clipboards, the whole circus, except the only thing real about it was the mess they made. Funny part is, they thought they had me cornered, but if you know anything about me, you know I always leave the back door open for myself and the front door swinging for anyone dumb enough to push their luck. Let me back up a sec, because, man, this story deserves a proper setting. You ever chase a dream so hard that by the time you finally grab it, it doesn't even feel real? That was me, sitting on the porch I built with my own two hands, sipping bitter coffee that tasted better for being earned, watching a sunrise spill over 120 acres I paid for in sweat, not promises. Just me, my dogs, my goats, an old tractor that should have died before I was born, and the kind of silence that wraps around your bones and tells you you're home. For a little while, I actually believed I was done with conflict. After all those years of fighting other people's wars, I thought I'd earned my peace. You know what I mean? But peace is fragile out here, and conflict finds you when you least expect it. It started with a cheap white sign, zip-tied to my fence like a ransom note. Notice, property under review. Simmons Valley HOA compliance required. I stood there, blinking, trying to figure out if it was a prank or if someone just really hated free land. I tossed the sign in my burned barrel and laughed it off, but that was mistake number one. Never underestimate people who think a clipboard makes them king. Mistake number two? Assuming Karen would stop. Next day, she pulls up in her sterile SUV, steps out like she owns the county, pressed pink shirt, khakis, mirrored shades, and that damn clipboard. She had that look, you know, the one where you're not a person, just an obstacle. Hi there. I'm Karen Simmons, HOA president. Thought I'd personally welcome you to the neighborhood. The smile was weaponized. She starts rattling off rules, fence height, livestock ratios, visual obstructions. I actually laughed out loud. Lady, this is farmland. The only visual standard out here is not crashing into a cow. But Karen didn't blink. She handed me a welcome packet, 30 pages of fake regulations, red-circled satellite images of my barn, highlighted notes about my satellite dish ruining the southern view corridor. I burned it on the spot. 2 days later, new signs showed up, laminated, nailed this time, higher and harder to reach. And not just signs. Men. 2 guys, late 30s, in khakis and vests with iron-on, HOA patrol patches, pacing my fence line, muttering into radios, clipboard in hand. I stepped off the porch and they froze, like they'd just seen a ghost holding a shotgun. We're conducting a compliance sweep, one said, voice shaking. Great, I replied. You're trespassing under the Callahan property charter. Leave. And they did, but not before dropping a clipboard with a map. My place was labeled Alpha, High Resistance. I snapped a picture and called my buddy Langston, who just so happens to be a sheriff's deputy. He hadn't heard of any real HOA out here, but he sure as hell knew Karen. She tried to get the feed store shut down last year, he chuckled. That's when it hit me. This wasn't over. So, I started prepping, not for a shootout, just for the usual rural nonsense. Motion sensors, trail cams, some lights rigged to scare off anything dumber than a coyote. You never know with people like Karen. One day it's flyers, next day it's patrols. Next time they came, it was before dawn, 5 shadows moving across my barn, flashlights off, radios in their ears, clipboards held like shields. Team Alpha in position, one whispered into his mic, like this was some kind of military op. I almost laughed. I slipped on my coat, thumbed the emergency trigger in my pocket. Floodlights kicked on, sirens blared, my barn lit up like a Walmart on Black Friday. 2 of them dropped flat. One tried to dive behind the water trough. Bad move. That's where Linda the goat sleeps, and Linda does not tolerate trespassers. She rammed the poor guy so hard he flipped right over, then stood there daring him to move. I just stepped onto the porch, sipping coffee, looking every bit the farmer who's seen it all. Good morning, gentlemen. Y'all planning to announce yourselves? Or was this supposed to be a surprise party? Clipboard guy straightened up, started quoting some HOA Emergency Code 7A nonsense about seizing non-compliant property. I raised an eyebrow. Did y'all make that up in a coloring book? He tried to hand me some folder with fake warrants. Half the pages said draft. One had a coffee stain. Another had a slice of cheese melted to the corner. That's when I heard it. Real gravel crunching. Sheriff Langston, lights blazing. He stepped out, took one look, and just shook his head. Callahan, what the hell is this? Pre-retirement theater. I shrugged. HOA SWAT team. Langston wasn't having it. Hands where I can see them. Drop the clipboards. One of the fake cops actually tried to claim civilian compliance jurisdiction. Langston ripped the badge off his vest. Buddy, this says compliance officer, tier 2. You're lucky it doesn't say mall cop. But that wasn't even the weirdest part. Langston found a binder, leather-bound, color-coded, full of violation classes. Class 1, fencing misalignment. Class 2, unauthorized rooster activity. Class 3, hostile resident behavior. I've seen cults with fewer rules. Inside was a list, a spreadsheet of local properties. Mine was highlighted red, obstructionist, high threat. Names crossed out, others marked as pending reintegration. Langston shook his head. This isn't just cosplay. This is coordinated. 3 arrests, 2 citations, and a fat report for the county. But Karen? She doubled down. A certified letter landed in my mailbox. She was suing me for hostile disruption of a sanctioned community action. She even had a real lawyer, someone with more reach than her clipboard. And inside the packet was a list of names. One of them, someone who helped me build my barn, marked informant. Power corrupts, sure, but it's the clipboard that gets you there faster. Next came the flyers. Not just in mailboxes, staked at the road, like battle flags. Aerial photos of my property, bullet points for unauthorized livestock, illegal fencing, documented hostility. Below that, subject has refused all attempts at reintegration. Neighbors stopped waving. The feed store jacked up their prices. People who'd shared beers at my place started avoiding me. Karen called a rally, 15 folks in her driveway, folding table, microphone, poster board that said, Emergency Compliance Briefing, Tier 3 Response. She held up my photo. This resident has refused compliance. He thinks he's untouchable, but no one is above the rules. I shouted back. You call a goat screaming a security threat? But she ignored me, handed out flyers like communion wafers. It got real weird after that. Trail cams cut, strange sedans parked down the road, engine running, but nobody getting out. I traced one plate to a Community Horizon Outreach, Karen's fake nonprofit. Then Max, my border collie, turned up limping, paw bleeding, glass scattered near the barn. That was a message. Langston took samples, said, this wasn't an accident. That was my line. So I went public. Posted every video, every sign, the fake raid, Max's injury, captioned it, when the HOA thinks they're the FBI. The internet blew up. 300,000 views in 24 hours. Karen's followers ghosted. Her compliance team started resigning. For a minute, I thought maybe that was the end of it. Nope. Karen showed up at my door, no clipboard this time, just a manila folder. You think this is about goats? She said. You think it ends with me? She shoved the folder at me and walked away. Inside, emails, memos, a document stamped with government seals, Rural Behavioral Management, Phase 2. My name at the top, primary resistance note. Turns out, this wasn't just an HOA vendetta, it was a federal pilot program. Everything Karen did was by the book, just not her book. Mine. 12 years ago, I'd written the framework they used for community stabilization. They just swapped uniforms and targets. Langston and the county attorney showed up with a scanner, copied every page. Within a day, they had a warrant. Karen's name was now on 5 separate investigations: fraud, impersonation, harassment, conspiracy. We raided her house. You ever see a bookshelf with a fake panel? That's where she kept the real files, binders, wall maps, names and faces, code labels for every neighbor. One binder had my schedule, wake-up time, habits, even what lights I left on at night. They were profiling you, Langston said. Not just me, I replied. There were files on 6 other properties, drone footage, even voice recordings from porch conversations. Karen wasn't the only one. One of the signatures on the federal docs was a name I recognized. Old intel guy, last seen in D.C. Later that night, a drone buzzed my field, burned a symbol into the grass by the fence, the same X that had shown up on other non-compliant properties. That's when the real team showed up. 3 guys, rifles, vests, clipboard. They didn't announce, didn't knock, just walked in. I watched them on the cams, triggered the barriers, lights, strobes. They dropped like bowling pins. By the time Langston rolled up, backup had arrived, and we had 7 on the ground, armed, trained badly, but trained. One guy, before they took him away, grinned through the bars. "You're not the enemy, you're the prototype." Yeah, that happened. But it didn't end there. We found photos of a bigger group. Karen at the center, Phase 4 ground team, Unit 7. Which means there's at least 6 more units. Langston asked, "You think they'll stop?" I shook my head. Not until someone bigger than me tells them to. Then there was the drive. No label, just my name. For folders inside. Infiltration, conditioning, pressure, correction. Every file on me. Drone shots, conversations, even old phone calls. They built this whole blueprint from my work. Karen was just the instrument. I was the test. The last video? Karen, staring right into the camera. If you're watching this, you saw the truth. You showed us what resistance looks like and how to break it. That was her legacy, but it wasn't mine. I filed a whistleblower report, named names, redacted the innocent, published every file. The story went national. Karen got indicted on federal charges. The pilot program got pulled. But bureaucracy never really dies. It just moves down the road. Life is quiet now. Max still limps. The goats still yell. The fences hold. And sometimes I see a truck slow at my gate and wonder if it's over or just paused. I still get emails, folks saying, "We thought we were alone." I always say, if they've already drawn the map, you're already on it. Don't wait for someone else to fight your battle. Last file on the drive? Coordinates, Midwest Beta. New zone, new targets. This didn't end here. They thought I was the glitch. But I wasn't. I was the warning. If you made it this far, drop your thoughts below. Who do you think was right? And who really won? Is it ever just about land? Or is it always about control? Smash that like, hit subscribe, and tell me where you're tuning in from. Because if there's one thing I learned, it's that none of us are as alone as they want us to believe.